Success Insight shares the stories of the people with passion and drive who make things happen in the world. Here's your host, Howard Fox.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Success Insight podcast. Today's episode of Success Insight is another addition to our Outdoor Adventure series, and it's a pleasure to introduce you to Jen Sotolongo. Jen is an outdoor enthusiast, an adventure dog parent, an athlete, writer, and blogger. Jen is also the author of the soon-to-be-published book, The Essential Guide to Hiking with Dogs. Jen, welcome to the Success Insight podcast, Outdoor Adventure series.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Fantastic. And for our listeners, in the spirit of full disclosure, I met Jen via our mutual membership to the Outdoor Writers Association of America. And when she had joined, I saw that she was a blogger, and her specialty was basically outdoor adventures and anything athletic-wise with her dog. And so once again, Jen, I would love to share your story with our listeners. When did the love of the outdoors really start to kind of take fold for you?
I grew up in Washington. I think when you grow up somewhere in the Northwest, you just kind of naturally love the outdoors, or at least I did. My family wasn't very outdoorsy, and so I grew up kind of just going to popular spots. My family wanted to do a hike day, which wasn't that often. I started running cross country in high school. That took me outdoors, and I started off as a road runner and eventually learned that I really enjoyed running on trails. And so I was just always looking for new trails to run on. And that just kind of fueled my love for the outdoors. And then when I got a dog, she was actually my partner at the time's dog, I just knew right away she was going to be my adventure buddy. And I wanted to take her with me everywhere. So she joined me on all of my trail runs and hikes and camping activities, anything outdoors. She was always there. And so it just became something that connected us and built our bond.
Fantastic. I have visions of, at least on the drive or on the bike, the dog in the car with the head out the window with the air. I mean, I think dogs just love the air kind of blowing at them and their ears are flopping. And on the bike, how did you begin to introduce your dog? Now, what was this dog's name?
Her name was Sora.
How did you introduce Sora to your outdoor lifestyle? I mean, did she acclimate right away, or was there some kind of getting used to it kind of period?
She acclimated right away. Basically, I met her when my partner and I started dating, and I had a run scheduled. It was a New Year's Eve run with my running group, and you could choose from a certain number of miles to do, like 10, 20, or 30 on this trail. And I was doing the 11-mile or the 10-mile route. I just kind of stole her and took her with me, which, thinking back, I should have built her endurance. She was totally fine on that run, but I am a proponent of building endurance for humans and dogs. But she was great. I knew right away after that run that she was going to be the greatest adventure buddy.
Fantastic. And I'm sure she slept for a couple of days afterward.
Yes.
So how did this love of just being outdoors and running on the trails? And by the way, I really appreciated that because there's a big hike near where I live in Las Vegas. And there's the asphalt or the concrete trail all the way around the loop. But as you go into the innards of this trail, it's all gravel and, dirt. And actually I was saying to myself, I like this better. There's just something about being on dirt and gravel. So, okay, I digress. How did you begin to take this career of yours? Because you're the founder of, Long Haul Truckers, and do a lot of work with taking your dog, your current dog, Sitka, and the adventure dog, out in your adventures. How did this love, incorporating the love of being outdoors with the dog, how did that start to take shape?
I had always wanted a dog as a kid, and I grew up with cats, which are lovely. I love cats.
Nothing wrong with cats.
Nothing wrong with cats. But I always wanted a dog, and my parents didn't want one, and I was kind of the neighborhood dog sitter because I just wanted to be around dogs. So when Sora came into my life, I had spent 30 years at that point just dreaming of all the things I would do with my dog. And, I didn't really have to think too much about her involvement in my outdoor activities. I just figured out a way to involve her. So trail running and hiking and backpacking are all typical things you think of doing with your dog. I paddleboard with my dogs. I'm sure we'll talk about the bike trip we did with Sora. But it really just, I think it's easy to just kind of say, oh, it's too, like, they won't allow dogs, or it's not dog friendly, or I can never teach my dog to do this. And it's just not necessarily true. Sometimes it's, you have to put in a little extra work to find something that's dog friendly, or you'll have to do some additional training to get your dog used to a certain piece of equipment, or builds their confidence if you're doing some more technical, like scrambling climbs. But, it's absolutely possible to do with most dogs, as long as you give them the right conditioning and training and have the right gear for them.
Now, in your work, in addition to going out on these adventures, and I definitely want to talk about some of the adventures, specifically this cycling adventure, how are you creating content to then share with your ideal client? I mean, who is somebody who likes to be outdoors, has a dog, and wants to incorporate them into that lifestyle?
When I'm thinking about what I'm going to write, I do research to kind of see what people are searching for, what kind of questions they're asking Google. And there are different tools and plugins you can use to find out those answers. I also ask a lot of questions on my Instagram page. That's a great way to solicit content. You just ask people what do you want to know about backpacking with a dog, say, and you'll get all these answers, and that's your content. And then I also put out an annual survey asking, what do you want to see? What questions do you have? What topics have I not covered? What do you, want me to write about? And I think it's tricky being, an expert in something, because you forget about the basic questions you had when you were first starting out. And so asking my audience these questions reminds me of, oh yeah, I didn't know that when I first started trail running with a dog. I've been running for over 20 years. I don't think about that anymore. So yeah, getting back to the basics is something that I have to remind myself of a lot, because that's who is coming to this blog. They're people that want to know how to get out with their dogs and are often just starting out.
What are some examples of the just starting out types of knowledge that you would share with someone who finds you via your Instagram or on your webpage, Long Haul Truckers?
I have posts on a number of topics. I try and pick from all the things that I like doing. So I have, one about how to paddleboard with your dog and what kind of training I did with my dog to get him used to the paddleboard. I have one about trail running with your dog, or I guess it's just running with your dog, but how, like, trail running with a puppy, building endurance, paying attention to the temperature, things like that. I have one on camping with a dog for the first time, suggesting maybe you practice in your backyard, depending on if your dog is going to bark if they hear certain sounds. So getting them used to sleeping outside is a good way to kind of get them used to being in a different place. So yeah, just kind of go through all the things that I do and break it down for people just starting out.
When you began with the trail running, you had Sora at the time. What were the next activities that you started to incorporate, having the dog with you, joining you on your adventures?
I guess, yeah, we started out trail running, and then, hiking was another activity I did, and then camping. Those were all kind of things I was already doing. But then I guess it would be the cycling. We quit our jobs in 2015 and decided to take Sora on a bike trip across Europe and South America. And we got her a dog specific trailer from Burley Design. And She took to it right away. She was an amazing dog. She was my, once in a lifetime dog. She just would chill in her trailer and we didn't have to put in a lot of effort to get her used to that. She was just very accommodating to whatever we did with her. And I think one thing that's as important as the physical skills your dog needs to go on adventures is building that bond between you and your dog, because your dog needs to be able to trust you that you are taking them to do something safe. And if they trust you, and if you go through the steps to build their confidence on rocks or unstable surfaces, or, not all dogs are going to like the bike trailer. But if you slowly build them up to that and show them, this is fun, this isn't scary, then, it's going to make your adventures much better and much more enjoyable for you and your dog.
Looking back at some of the adventures you've gone on, is there a kind of like the karma moment, like, oh my God, this is the epitome of what life is all about. Here I am in this beautiful environment. My trusty dog is with me, and life does not get any better than this.
It's hard to pick just one. And, often, like, the first thing that came to mind as you were asking that question was just sitting in a meadow in Andorra in Europe, overlooking the mountains. And, it's something I don't even know if we hiked there. I think we just drove to the top of this mountain pass and found a little trail and had a picnic there. And, that's not inherently very adventurous, but that's what came to mind. It's the simple things. I think really just taking the time to enjoy the fact that you're out in nature with your dog, and that you get to explore all these great places with them.
So I have a question, and this is more of it's a curiosity a bit. So you're on this mountain meadow, having this gorgeous view, great scenery. You're with the dog. What are you doing in the moment while you're there with the dog? What are you feeling?
In that particular instance, Sora had been diagnosed with cancer. She had this recurring tumor that kept coming back, and we would have it removed. It was a really spindly tumor, and they just couldn't get clean margins. So we knew it would come back. I knew this was going to be her last year with us. And so that's what I was thinking about. It's just not that she was dying necessarily, but just grateful to be with her and grateful to be on that mountaintop in Andorra with her. And, it doesn't have to be Andorra. It doesn't have to be somewhere exotic. I think having done all of these adventures with Sora, because I met her when she was 8, I think, and then she was 13 when she died. So we only got 5 years together, but I really made the most of those 5 years. And I think for me, that's what this is all about. All this adventuring is just spending that time with your dog and really making the most of all that time you have together, because our dogs don't live very long. And that's the hardest part of having a dog. Not everyone can just quit their jobs and go on and do your bike tour with their dog. And I try to make that very clear in my more adventure blog posts, that you don't have to do something extreme. You can have adventures in your backyard. And I think probably a lot of people have learned that during the pandemic, that there's a lot to explore right near where you live. So it doesn't have to be far away or some mountaintops. It can really just be whatever fun thing you want to do outdoors with your dog. And committing to challenges with your dog too is great for that bond that I mentioned earlier. And also just for personal development. I took Sora on my first solo overnight backing trip to a lake in Washington. And it was just great. Like, it felt really just wonderful that, technically, no, I was not solo by myself because she was there, but having her there, added to the trip. It wouldn't have been as enjoyable just by myself. And having her there just gave me more confidence and doing that trip gave me courage to do other things with her. I'm on my own now. It's just Sitka and me. And I carry that with me, knowing that I can do these things. And I have Sitka there with me, and we can do these hard things and we can do them together. And that's what it's all about to me, is just doing fun things with my dog and doing challenging things with my dog.
I'm curious too. I'd love to chat a little bit about what you're doing now with Sitka, but I do have a question with regard to one of your adventures. It was probably the first blog that really just jumped out at me. It was about this trip in South America, crossing the border between Ecuador and Chile. It sounded like a really arduous trip, and probably put you, your partner at the time, Sora, really in the limits of exhaustion and like perseverance and resilience and all of those. So talk a little bit about that adventure.
Sure. Yes, it was in Patagonia between Chile and Argentina.
Chile and Argentina.
And there's kind of one cyclist route in that section. And so we had heard about this border trek for, a month or so. And basically it's a border where you go, you're on a trail. It's a really unofficial border. And then you have to take this boat to this town in Chile. So I guess we were in Argentina. It's near where El Chalten is. And you bike through this beautiful place, and you spend the night at the border station. And then the next day you go up and over this mountain and get to the other side. And then you wait, you hope the boat comes, because the boat was also like, it could come or not come.
That's what happens.
And there was no food, there was no services, there was not really much on the other side. And so for us, this was especially challenging because we had Sora and we had our trailer, and a lot of the trail was basically a ditch. And so you couldn't fit both your bike and yourself in that ditch. You had to straddle the ditch and push the bike, basically. And so we would do one bike, two bikes, and then we had to lift the trailer up and over our head. Sora, of course, thought this was the best day ever because she got to run around and be free and not have to carry anything. But each section, that we did required 3 different trips to carry all of our things. Right. And so where it took other cyclists longer times than usual for something like that, it took us all day. And we had the added stress of having to deal with Sora's paperwork, because each time you cross the border, which is fairly frequently in this part of Patagonia, you're constantly going back and forth between Chile and Argentina, you have to get a certificate of health from a veterinarian. And I think it lasts, I don't remember, 10 days or something. And ours was about to expire. It was going to expire at midnight that night. And there was no way I was going back up and over that. And we finished well after midnight. And I was devastated. I was like, oh my God, they're going to send us back because the paperwork expired. And we got to the border at 2 a.m. and woke up the guards, or whatever I don't know what their job title is. And they were like, why are you knocking on our door right now? We have the paperwork and it's going to expire. It's expired and we can't go back. And they're like, don't worry about it. And set us up in this, they had a military housing sort of. And they had an abandoned cabin or an unused cabin. And they're like, do you want to sleep in there? And we're like, yeah, we do. So they set us up in this lovely little cabin, and all our friends were camped, somewhere else. So it ended up being, a good little outcome. And now I have a good story to tell.
There you go. And Sora, no doubt, was having a wonderful time as well.
Oh man, she that was probably her favorite day.
So with long haul trekkers now, what is the nature of your work? I mean, you've got you're doing a lot of writing.
Mhm.
Got the book coming out. What other aspects are a part of this journey that you're on with long haul truckers?
So yeah, the blog started out kind of as like a diary, not a diary, but just a way to keep in touch with friends and family. And then I learned more about blogging and realized it could be a career. And initially, the blog was dedicated to really traveling with a dog, traveling internationally specifically, and cycling with a dog. And once the trip ended, I started writing about other activities. So, the camping, running, and hiking that I've mentioned. And then and I do gear reviews as well. And I would say in the last year, I've been really immersing myself into dog training. And so I've been writing more articles about training your adventure dog. I'm really passionate about advocating for good trail etiquette and dog management so that we can all enjoy the trails safely and, without kind of worrying about other people and their dogs. A lot of my content lately has been about that. I write about trip itineraries, so I haven't traveled internationally with Sitka at all, but we go on lots of road trips. So I'm always on the hunt for dog friendly adventure accommodations and kind of lesser known trails and, what to do in fun adventure towns, things like that.
Sure. What are Sitka's favorite activities? Obviously, everything you're doing is potentially a favorite activity, but is there one thing that you do that she's all in?
Trail running. He loves it. He loves it. He's really just such a great trail partner. I've had him for like a year and a half. And we spent a lot of the first 6 months just training those skills and getting him to where I wanted him to be.
Mhm.
And then I was injured a lot of last year, so I wasn't able to run and have finally been able to start ramping it up over the past 6 months or so. And he's just great. I have so much fun running with him. And then I would say the other thing he loves doing is just being near water. He really loves water. He's kind of challenging to have on the paddleboard sometimes, actually, because he loves the water so much. Like he'd rather just be in it.
Very cool. My friend Holly, and she and my four-legged nephew, they live in California. He's a Samoyed, but he just loves the water. He barks at the water, but he loves the water. And he makes friends so easily. What kind of dog is Sitka?
He is a cattle dog mix, a red heeler mix.
Okay.
I've thought about getting him tested and just,
yeah. No need. As long as he's having fun. And I think one of the aspects of my life is really, I love dogs. I mean, I have friends in Ontario, they raise herding dogs. They have Belgian Shepherds and wonderful dogs. And I get to see them maybe once a year, except for COVID.
Right.
So, but get to see them. And then Sammy, I get to see every so often. He comes for a day, but he stays for like months because everywhere I look, there's a hair coming off.
Oh, yes.
But I think just being out here, when I was out last week, there were some folks that had like a little puppy. There was another couple that had their Alaskan Malamute. And just, I mean, I can't think of anything better than being outdoors and just fresh air and having your dog with you. And at least right now where I live, I can't have a dog, but I need to fix that. But you've given me hope. In addition to the work that you have been doing, and we alluded to the book that's soon to be published, The Essential Guide to Hiking with Dogs. And when is that going to be released?
May 1st.
May 1st. So that's coming up. Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Any other adventures or, once we're done with COVID and it's in our rearview mirror, any adventures come to mind where you want to take Sitka?
I have a couple in mind. I'd like to do a New England trip with him since the OWAA conference is in Vermont in October. I was thinking of bringing him with me and doing a New England road trip there. I went to school in Boston, so I have a lot of friends back there. And, the thought initially when I started writing my book, COVID was not a word I knew. And I was thinking about this book tour, and then I stopped thinking about the book tour because I didn't think it was going to be possible. But now I'm hoping that maybe it can be. So that's one trip I've been thinking about. And then last summer, I was really hoping to go to Canada, but that was not possible. So I'd really like to spend a month in British Columbia with him, just exploring. I grew up not far from the border, and I've been to Canada several times, but haven't really explored in a way that the province deserves. I know there's just so much beauty there, and I'm dying to go with my dog.
Almost definitely. And I can only imagine how much fun you both will have. Jen, if our listeners would like to learn more about you and your work, where are the best places for them to go?
They can head to my blog, which is longhaultrekkers.com. And they can sign up for my newsletter to get all the latest information on blog posts or things that I'm doing with Sitka. I also have a great following on Instagram, where I'm also at Long Haul Trekkers. And there's a link on my site where they can find out where to buy my book. And I think that's it.
Fantastic. Well, we have one request of you.
Okay.
Would love to, if you could share, maybe 4 or 6 pictures of you and Sitka, perhaps you and Sora, that really kind of highlight some of the adventures you have been on, and we can share those on our show notes on successinsightpodcast.com. Would love that if you're open to that.
Definitely open to that. Happy to send over some photos.
Fantastic. Well, Jen, thank you so much for joining us on Success Insight and the Outdoor Adventure Series. And this is like the right on target of the types of conversations we want to have, and really appreciate your insights, what you've shared. And really, I'm just a little bit envious. I kind of want to go out and hijack a dog right now, but and take it for a walk.
You can borrow.
I think that or become I can't even become a foster dog parent because we don't have pets in this particular apartment, but I got to deal with that. But yes, I have to find somebody that has a dog that will let me take it for a walk.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much. We really appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks for having me on.
Fantastic. All right, folks, we have just been chatting with Jen Sotolongo. She is an outdoor enthusiast, an adventure dog parent, athlete, writer, blogger, and she has really graciously joined us today, shared her journey going from just trail running out to helping individuals like you and I really get comfortable and acclimated to taking our dogs on outdoor adventures. When I say our dogs, I'm hoping I can actually mean our, which means I have a dog with me. But if you have a dog that you're perhaps unsure of taking out and engaging in some outdoor adventures, you definitely want to check Jen out and her work. And you'll find her at longhaultrekkers.com. Do sign up for her blog and get on her mailing list. And she's got a lot of great resources. And of course, if you're into hiking, the Essential Guide to Hiking with Dogs will be released on May 1st, okay? We hope you enjoyed today's podcast episode. Do let us know on successinsightpodcast.com. You can also find us on LinkedIn and Facebook, the Success Insight Podcast pages, and all of the major blogging platforms, especially Spotify, where we have our outdoor adventure playlist, and we're really excited about that. And you can also find us on YouTube as well. All right, folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, go out there, have a phenomenal day. Take care of yourselves, take care of your family, take care of your pet, and enjoy yourselves in the great outdoors. And we will see you on the next episode of the Success Insight Podcast. Take care now.
Success Insight is a production of Fox Coaching and First Story Strategies. Find us online, successinsightpodcast.com.